there are sermons that we would rather preach than others. Did you know that? It's like, well, you can pick it. Well, we're actually not supposed to. We're supposed to trust God and ask God what he wants to preach and preach that. I love preaching encouraging messages when people are discouraged and down and frustrated. I love preaching messages like that. I love if there are people that are in church that are unsaved. Well, I love preaching a salvation message and showing them how simply and wonderfully and how true that they can trust Jesus to save them. I love preaching that. I love preaching sermons of commitment and dedication to God, helping us to serve God and find the joy and blessing that comes from that. I enjoy preaching things like that. This morning, to be honest with you, will not be enjoyable. And no one will enjoy it. I will not enjoy preaching it, and you will not enjoy listening to it. Wow, can we leave now? But it's definitely something needed in our country, and every preacher in the country needs to preach a sermon or a series of sermons like this. This morning I'll be preaching on the subject of abortion. I realize that anytime I preach on abortion or any sin, there are people probably in the congregation that have fallen into that sin. This sermon is not to condemn anyone for a sin in the past, but to help us with the future, and especially to help our country. If I preach on divorce or alcohol or drugs, the ones who have gone through those horrible things should say amen and preach it, help someone else not to make the mistakes that I made. They shouldn't take it personally that I'm preaching or condemning them because they were a part of that in the past. They should be the first ones to say, amen, help people not to have to go through what I went through. And so, again, the sermon should be the same thing, never to hurt someone in the past. And I do understand that there are people that have gone through that, and God's forgiven you, and that is in the past. But our nation and the future of the children are important to know. Thursday, January 22nd, 1973, the Supreme Court legalized abortion in the infamous Roe v. Wade decision. As Christians, we need to remember that what is legal is not necessarily moral in God's sight. Of course, many abortion advocates argue that it's not a human baby they're killing, but science is against them. Before conception, there is not a new human life. But at the moment of conception, there is a new life possessing 46 chromosomes, distinct from both the mother and the father. At the moment of conception, 46 chromosomes, totally distinct from the mom and the dad. Genetically, the baby is not the mother's body. It's my body. Genetically, the baby is not the mother's body. By 21 days, the first heartbeats have begun. 21 days, the heart starts beating. At 45 days, the brain waves can be detected. By the 9th and 10th week, the thyroid and adrenal glands are functioning. By the 12th or 13th weeks, he has fingernails, sucking his thumb. He recoils from the pain, has his own unique fingerprints. The only thing that developing life needs to become is what we are, time and nurture. The only thing. It has everything in it. What was Roe versus Wade all about? By a vote of 7-2. Can you believe that? 7-2. The Supreme Court held that until a child in the womb is viable, meaning capable of sustaining life outside the womb, or capable of meaningful life, it says, the court reckoned this to be 6 or 7 months. The mother's desire for an abortion should take precedence over the baby's right to life. For the last 2 or 3 months or longer, the court said the state may protect the unborn, but that it must allow abortion if the life of the health or the mother is threatened. The court defined her life or health to mean physical, emotional, psychological health. Her age, marital status, the infant's prospects, his stress life for the future. In other words, a woman can kill her child in the womb legally for any reason right up until the moment of birth. If it has to do with the exception clause, the life of the mother. The life of the mother includes not is she physically going to die, but the life of the mother is her emotional state, her psychological state, that is dealing with the life of the mother, which means anyone can still have an abortion if you have those exception clauses. Please understand what they say, well, I'm against abortion, but I believe there ought to be exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. Please understand what those mean when you say that. If you are against abortion but are for exceptions, then you're for abortion. Because that's literally what you're allowing in every case, because that's all they have to say. I'm psychologically disturbed by having this baby, and so I have to have an abortion. Okay, check. The life of the mother. According to his former Surgeon General, Everett Koop, the most common reason for abortion is convenience. Only 3 to 5% of all abortions are performed by reasons of rape, incest, or possibility of a deformed child or a severe threat to the life of the mother. In the U.S., out of every 6 women who have abortions also describe herself as an evangelical Christian. Let me say that again. 1 out of every 6 women who've had an abortion describe themselves as an evangelical Christian. In other countries such as China and India, where male babies are favored over female babies, the abortion and infanticide of girls has led to a severe shortage of brides for young men, destroying whole societies. Since January 22nd, 1973, as of this morning, there were 58,215,602 abortions when I checked it this morning. 58,215,602 abortions in America since 1973. In 2000, more children died from abortion than Americans died in the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, the Gulf Wars combined. War is so horrible. We ought to outlaw war. We're murdering way more innocent babies every day and every year than are murdered or killed in the wars. The stats. I'll read this to you. There's a place where you can go, and it's they have these counters that are up there. In the United States today, so far, 1,390 babies were aborted. So far today. Since I checked it this morning, there are already another 400 abortions that were done since I checked it this morning. In the worldwide, 151 per hour, every 24 seconds, a baby is murdered. After reaching a high, well, can anything be done? Yes. In 1990, it was a high, 1.6 million abortions in a year. Today, it's under a million. That's still should be zero, okay? But can there be things that can be done? Yes. I believe so many times we as Christians just throw our hands and say, well, it's a law, Supreme Court, nothing we can do about it. And that is not true. There are things we can do about it, and things are being done about it. And if every Christian would stand up and do what we can, if every pastor preached a sermon in their church and every Christian did what they could, we could totally reverse Roe versus Wade. We could outlaw abortion. And even right now, we can do things to make it less and less and less and less. You hear states like Mississippi. What is there? I think 1 abortion clinic in the whole state now, because they've made state laws so hard. They've done a simple thing by saying doctors who perform abortions have to be licensed in a hospital in case they had a complication with the woman's health. Does that make sense? Absolutely. I have it here in stats in a minute. There are hundreds and thousands of women who have lost their lives from abortions. And so here the woman's health is at risk. We have to go admit her to the hospital. The doctor performing the abortion knows what's going on. He needs to have license rights at the hospital. Well, typically those doctors don't have rights at hospitals, and so there's no one there to perform abortion, so they have to close the clinics down. Are there things that can be done? Absolutely. Even though Roe versus Wade is still, quote, the Supreme Court's law in the land. Tennessee, we don't have that problem. This was a few years ago, but it's now over 500,000 babies in Tennessee, Bible Belt, have been murdered in Tennessee. Over 15,000 a year. Where did these laws on abortion come from? Or what was early American life? This, to me, was very interesting. The colonies inherited English common law. We were a colony of England, and so we inherited their common law until we had our own country and our own laws. We largely adopted their laws well into the 19th century. English common law forbade abortion. Abortion prior to quickening was a misdemeanor. Quickening is when they feel life. Okay? Understand this is 18th century, 19th century. Their understanding of baby and development, and when the baby could move, then they thought then the baby was alive, and when you could feel the quickening. So if it was abortion before quickening, it was a misdemeanor. Abortion after the quickening was a felony. This punishment inherited from early law stemmed from the earlier knowledge regarding human reproduction. This changed. In the 1800s, it was discovered that human life did not begin when she felt life, but rather at fertilization, at conception. As a direct result of this, the British Parliament in 1869 passed the Offences Against the Persons Act. 1869. The baby is a person. They passed a law, Offenses Against the Person Act, eliminating the above punishment and dropping the felony punishment back to fertilization. Okay? So the felony now, it's a felony to abort any baby from fertilization on. One by one across the middle years of the 19th century, every then present state passed its own law against abortion. By 1860, 85% of the population lived in states which had prohibited abortion with new laws. These laws preceded and followed the British Empire. They moved the felony punishment from quickening, feeling life, back to conception. This was our law. This was our law. And it was fought and understood about that. This statement is, let me skip that. So, Christians to see, can something be done? Yes. God wants us to. So many times we don't want to know about it. To preach a sermon like this, if you knew, okay, we're going to be talking about abortion on Sunday morning. I don't think I want to hear that. I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand, but I wonder how many people in here, don't raise your hand, have watched all the videos, the undercover videos that have come out against Planned Parenthood and have seen what's really gone on. So many times as Christians we say, yuck, I don't want to see that. The eyes affected the heart, the Bible says. Do we want to see it? No. Should we see it and know what's going on? Absolutely. Every Christian should, every American should, and every person in Congress should have to sit down and watch every one of those videos and know exactly what they're voting and allow to happen. When they asked the White House about it, they said, no, we've not watched any of that. Well, they should. They should see those medical people searching through a petri dish of human parts and saying, oh, another boy, and laughing like it's something funny as the parts of a human baby. They should have to see them talking about a beating heart of a baby, but they wanted to get an intact brain. The heart is still beating, and they said to take a scalpel and start here and split open the skull and the skin to get an intact brain out. Ooh, yuck, I don't like that. Nobody does. But if we put it out of sight, out of mind, and we go on with our own life, then what happens? Then millions and millions and millions of babies are still being killed and aborted, and we say, well, I didn't know. Failure to know is not an excuse. Try that when the police officer pulls you over. And to stand before God one day and say, well, God, I just didn't know. What did he say? Should have. You could have known. You could have been aware, and you could have done something to stop that. People in America, evangelical Christians, is still the largest, by far, block in any group category in America. Then why in the world are they allowed to get by with abortion and getting rid of and fighting us on marriage? Why are they allowed to do that? Because we don't do anything. Because we don't do anything. It said old English historian Edmund Burke said, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is that good men do nothing. Edmund Burke said, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is that good men do nothing. Why is there triumph of evil today? Because what? Good men do nothing. Good men do nothing. And there are things that we can do. I understand out of sight, out of mind. What I'm getting ready to read, you're not going to want to hear. I don't want to read it. I don't want to preach it. I said, was not looking forward to this sermon, but you need to know. Abortion facts. These are the methods that are used to murder a baby. Number one, suction aspiration. The method of abortion most commonly used in the first trimester abortions, a powerful vacuum and a suction tube is put into a dilated uterus, the suction tears the soft baby apart, removing it from the uterus, vacuuming a baby up. Next, dilation and D&C. Dilation of the cervix, which permits the insertion of a sharp surgical instrument, is used to dismember the baby's developing body. D&E, dilation and evacuation, used after 12 weeks. This method is identical to a D&C method, except that forceps are used to twist and tear the body that now comes with calcified bones. The bones are now strong and hard, so they have to reach in with forceps and break and rip and tear the body apart piece by piece. I have it later on in the sermon, but another medical nurse or aide tech is there, and when the pieces are pulled out, they have to put them together and piece a baby back together to be able to know they got it all. Salt poisoning, saline injection, used after 16 weeks. A long needle is inserted into the mother's abdomen, into the baby's sac. The baby breathes in, swallowing the deadly toxin and is poisoned. The mother delivers a dead or dying baby. Another hormone, prostaglandin. Hormones developed by Upjohn Pharmaceutical Company are injected into the amniotic sac to induce contractions. The article about this method, one of the complications was listed live birth. One of the complications of this method of abortion, it produces live births. Oh, but because the mother wanted it to be aborted, then they just let it die. Hysterectomy. Similar to a cesarean section, this method employed by abortionists almost often results in a live birth. The baby is left to die by neglect or by direct art. Then D&X, dilation and extraction. By pulling on the baby's legs with forceps, the legs are delivered, followed by the torso, the arms, and the shoulders. The baby's head usually remains inside the uterus. Using blunt-tipped surgical scissors, the baby's skull is pierced where the suction catheter is inserted to extract the skull contents. Fetal brains and organs are used for fetal tissue experimentation, or called a partial birth abortion. To see that these things are going on, and to hear, if you watch these videos, them talk about this so cavalier, no big deal, and then they're selling these body parts to other people. Selling them, laughing, flipping, eating, drinking wine, enjoying. One talking about how much money we can make. Oh, enough to buy a new Lamborghini. I'm talking about babies' parts, babies' bodies. Sometimes full intact babies, alive babies, babies with hearts still beating, and they're selling them. And guess what? Your tax money helps go to pay for that. Oh, no. They don't use any tax money for abortions. They use it for all the other good things that Planned Parenthood does. Do you understand, if you subsidize a business to do one thing, then that helps them do the other thing? You are giving to something that's wrong so they can do things that are wrong. And even the other things that they're doing are not even good and right. If a woman needed those other health benefits, they are out there and other ways enlisted to be able to do them. For instance, if you think, oh yeah, they're just helping these low-income women and we have to have that. A pregnancy test costs Planned Parenthood 25 cents. They charge a patient $31. 12-week abortion costs them $100. They charge $850. A 12-week exam costs $30. They charge $175. An HIV test costs $8. They charge them $90. They're really trying to help these poor women, aren't they? Huh? Basic STD package costs $12. They charge them $170. An advanced STD package costs them $20. They charge $230. An IUD costs $200. They charge them $900. Birth control pills cost $2. They charge them $35. A depot shot costs $6. They charge them $150. Well, what about mammograms? We have to protect the women. They don't do them. Planned Parenthood does not do mammograms. Prenatal care, they don't provide that either. Breast biopsy, they don't provide that either. Is this some great organization that we need to give $500 million American U.S. tax dollars to so they can provide these things to help poor women? No. They're slaughtering butchering houses that we should have nothing, should be outlawed, but definitely our tax money should not go for things like that. So what does God say? What does God say about human life? Number one, Genesis 1:26, human life is unique, and God created us in his image. The little baby is created in God's image. God distinguishes humans from the rest of the animal creation. Only of man did God say, "Let us make man in our image." He appointed man to rule over the other creatures on the earth. And God made man to be able to be that way. The Bible clearly says human life is not the product of impersonal chance plus time. Man did not evolve from lower forms of life. God directly created man in his image. To understand, when you're killing a baby, you are killing someone who God made in his image. Number 2, God specifically forbids us from shedding innocent blood. Thou shalt not kill, Exodus 20, verse 13. God does not forbid killing in capital punishment by the government, national defense, personal defense, but murder is forbidden. It's exactly what abortion is. It's murder. It's murder. A doctor murdering hundreds and thousands of babies. The Bible uses the phrase innocent blood 20 times. Always condemns the shedding of innocent blood. Is there any person more innocent than a baby in a womb? Is there any person more innocent? God forbids the shedding of innocent blood. What is that baby? Innocent blood. Are they shedding his blood? Absolutely. By ripping his arms off and ripping his legs off, they're shedding innocent blood. A baby not yet born is human life, fully human, and thus precious to God. God said in Psalm 139, he knew them in the womb. For thou hast possessed my reins, thou hast covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are thy works, and my soul knoweth right well. My substance was not hid from thee, when I was made in secret, and curiously wrought in the lowest parts of the earth. David said, God knew me. God made me in the womb. God knew that. It was said about Jeremiah in chapter 1, verse 5, Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. Before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee, and I ordained thee a prophet unto the nations. To understand, God knows us before we're born. It's not when there's a heartbeat. It's not when we can feel life. It's not when the baby's born and takes his first breath. There's not really a baby until he takes his first breath. So you can pull everything out except the head, because he can't breathe yet, suck his brains out, and then he's dead, and we really didn't kill a baby because he hadn't taken a breath yet. That's stupid, but that's their justification in that. No, he's a human life at conception, and the way God made him, and that's what the Bible says. To view babies, number 4, to view babies as inconvenient to the point of killing them is to violate Jesus' view of children. Whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck and that he were drowned in the depths of the sea. As we've already talked about, over 95% of all abortions are done for convenience. A girl gets pregnant through out-of-wedlock sex. Neither she or her boyfriend is ready for the responsibility of being a parent. It would be an economic hardship or require interruption in her education. And abortion is a convenient way to dispose of the whole problem. No, that is not. In Luke 18:15, people were bringing their babies to Jesus so he could touch them. The disciples rebuked the parents. Jesus had better things to do than to bless the babies. What an inconvenience. Jesus rebuked the disciples and welcomed the children. What about an unwanted child? Do you know how many babies are wanted out there? We have friends of ours all the time who are looking to adopt a baby. Adopt a baby. What about incest or rape or the life of a mother? If it's the life of a mother, you can take the baby C-section. It's safer and easier to take a baby C-section, safer for the mother than an abortion. Less traumatic for the mother than an abortion for her to go through if the life of the mother is at risk. And to understand, number 7, to kill babies in the womb is an attempt to avoid the suffering. An attempt to avoid suffering is to try to dodge God's purpose in suffering. We live in a fallen world, a sinful world. God allows bad things to happen. And God allows those for a purpose. Well, that person shouldn't have been raped. I agree. But the baby shouldn't have to suffer. And by the way, they shouldn't have to suffer for the rest of their life. Because aborting that baby, they will suffer for that. We met a little girl and met the mother when we were in the Philippines on a mission trip. And missionaries had adopted a little girl. And a beautiful little girl. And she played the piano just marvelously. Just little, but just could just play beautifully. And they said, yeah, we couldn't have children. We were able to adopt this little girl. I said, wow, that's great. And they said, yeah, she was the product of a rape. This young girl was raped. But in the Philippines, abortion is not legal. And so she had the baby, and we're able to adopt the baby. And she knows the mother, and the mother knows her, and is thrilled that she didn't have an opportunity to abort the child, knowing the child has a wonderful life to grow up. God allows hard times, but God wants to take the bad times and work them together for good. To hear the stories of people who thought about abortion and who didn't go through with it, and to see where their children are at, how blessed. Yes, it was hard. Yes, they went through some tough times, but so much more blessed later on because of that. It's never a reason to be able to stop that. Abortion, as we know, stops a beating heart. Don't get tired of listening to that. Don't say, oh, it's not a bumper sticker. It's still true. Abortion stops a beating heart. Joe Riddle says, I believe this society will one day look back at the horror of abortion, and the critics will ask, where was the church? Where were the Christians? To look back at this horror and say, how in the world did we allow this to happen? John Wilkie said, I have the right to free speech, but not to shout fire in a theater. A person's right to anything stops when it injures or kills another living human. Should any civilized nation give to one citizen the absolute right to kill another to solve that first person's problem? We're free, right? My freedom stops, though, when yours begins. I don't like John Oswald. I think I'm just going to kill him. I should be free to do that. Is that right? No. My freedom stops, what? Where his begins. I'm not free to take his life because that would encroach on what? His freedom. Do you understand that? Oh, I'm free to abort my baby. No, because that will encroach on that baby's freedom of life. Of life. It's not right to do that. The father of medicine, Hippocrates, said, I will not give a woman an instrument to procure abortion. Hippocratic oath was said, do no harm. Well, guess what you're doing? You're harming. You're killing that child. What would God have done if Mary and Joseph had decided to have an abortion? Oh, you're not married. It's not going to look bad for you. People are going to talk. Well, let's just do away with this. A professor at UCA Medical School asked the students this question. True story. Here's his family history. The father has syphilis. The mother has TB. They already have 4 children. First one's blind. Second one had died. The third one's deaf. The fourth has TB. The mother is pregnant. The parents are willing to have an abortion. If you decide they should, what do you think? Most of the students decided abortion. Congratulations, said the professor. You've just murdered Beethoven. That's Beethoven's life. How do you know what that child is going to become? And to flippantly say it's not worth anything. You wonder, with 58 million babies, which one of them would have cured cancer? Which one of them could have led the world? Which one of them could have done great things? Terrence Patterson, a medical doctor, said, I don't understand how some of my friends can get worked up over the death of a dolphin, a forest, veal calf, or a lab rat, and not care about a being who, if given chance, will grow up to look just like them. All of our children were in bed. Late television news was over. I was putting the finished touches to a presentation for medical students scheduled the next day. As I reviewed some of the slides which might be used, there appeared on the screen a picture of an abortion victim, aged 2.5 months gestation. Her body had been dismembered by a curette, a long-handled knife used in a D&C abortion procedure. Suddenly I heard, rather than saw, another person near me. At the sound of a sharp intake of breath, I turned to find my youngest son, then a sleepy, rumpled 3-year-old, had unexpectedly entered the room. His small voice was filled with sadness as he asked, who broke the baby? How could this small, innocent child see what so many adults cannot? Who broke the baby? On average, women give at least 3 reasons for choosing abortion. Many say having a baby would interfere with their work, school, or other responsibilities. About the same say they cannot afford the child. A little bit less say they do not want to be a single parent or having problems with their husband or partner. Only 12% of women included a physical problem with any of their health for reasons for an abortion. 1% of aborting women reported their survivor they were a survivor of a rape. In 2010, 10 women died as a result from a known induced abortion. At least 421 women have died as a result of legal abortion. Listen to this. 40% of minors having an abortion reported that neither parent knew about their abortion. 40% of minors. A 14-year-old girl goes to school nurse and say, I'm pregnant, I don't want to have an abortion. And they'll help them get it, and the parents won't know. But yet, if you want to take an aspirin, it takes an act of Congress to get that done. I don't have time this morning to read this, but can I give you some homework? A couple things. Number one, watch the videos. Watch the videos. Watch them. Take time. Let them move you. Let them stir you up. Let them help you to decide that you're going to do something and do what you can. Well, we don't have the power to totally change it, but we can do what we can. And that's all God asks. God wants us to do what we can. Number two, read some of these. Google abortion survivor stories. Google abortion survivor stories. You ought to read some of these. They're amazing. To see women who survived the abortion. They did the saline injection, and for whatever reason, they didn't kill the baby. And the baby was able to still live. This one lady describes how 3 different times they tried to do this, and she was immune to saline injections, and she lived. And now she's talking about her life and where she is and her children and all of that. Read these survivor stories and see where would life have been without them, where the mother tried to abort them. See the mothers who come back now and say, I'm so glad that didn't work. How could I have ever thought that? Read those things. An aborted baby survived for 80 minutes while hospital staff waited for it to die, a coroner's court said. The baby was unexpectedly born alive after birth, induced between 21 and 22 weeks. The coroner said that it was a responsibility vacuum. He accepted the baby was not going to live because of prematurity, and the nurse on duty was faced with a moral dilemma. In the end, she simply covered it up, made it as comfortable as possible, and waited for it to die. Last year, a baby was aborted just short of 23 weeks gestation because the test it showed it had Down syndrome. Why is that any reason to kill a baby? Yesterday we had a youth activity, and one of the most fun things of the whole youth activity was watching our Down syndrome boy in the church. He had so much fun, and we had so much fun watching him be a part. Just loved it. Just loved it. When we did the firing squad, he likes to get hit with water balloons. He just stood there. And his brother was the one throwing him at him, and he got hit both times and smiled and laughed. He loved it. We got to do the water wrestling, and he got to do the water wrestling, and boy, to see him us cheering for him and him winning as he pushed his brother under the water. Just joys, running around the bases. What a joy and a blessing. That's a gift from God. That's a gift from God. That's not something to be wiped away. Some premature babies survive when born less than 24 weeks, the abortion limit. Doctors generally believe 22 weeks is a minimum needed for survival. However, babies that premature need assistance in breathing, which may be denied by doctors if the if they assess the chances of a healthy survival as small. By the way, it gets younger and younger and younger. The more advanced science goes, the earlier a baby can live. And they'll tell you, if you're honest, the case of death in these is called murder. It's called murder. The baby's alive, outside the womb, breathing, and they on purpose kill it and let it die. The baby is not a piece of tissue. Baby is not the product of conception or a fetus. It is a baby. By the way, they say fetus. You know what fetus is? It's French for baby. Oh, yeah, we don't want to call it a baby. We call it a fetus. What's fetus? Fetus is a French word for baby. It's a baby. It's a baby. That's what it is. Call it whatever you want. It's still murder. Why is this done? Selfishness and for money. Love of money is the root of all evil. Here's an interview from a former abortion clinic owner. Okay, listen to this. How many abortions do the doctors do, he was asked. The average doctor who does abortions 1 day a week at a clinic averages 25 to 40 abortions. He'll walk away in his pocket with an average of between $100,000 and $125,000 a year working 1 day a week. $100,000 to $125,000 a year working 1 day a week. An average clinic performs roughly 8,000 abortions, will gross $1 million a year. The question asked, one doctor can do that? That's full-time, though. Yes. Eric said, no, it's not at all. Abortion clinics, Dr. Wilkie, are set up like cattle slaughtering centers. You get them in, you get them out. I would say, honestly, 60 to 70% of all abortions take place on Saturday. Don't have to miss work. Don't have to miss school. How many women are usually scheduled during a day? The maximum I've seen get done in a day is 50 to 60 women. One clinic, 50 to 60 women coming in and out and murdering those babies. Usually it takes 2 abortionists, but I've seen doctors kick out 40 to 50 patients by themselves. First trimester cases, if you have a doctor who's been doing it a while and knows what he's doing, he can push through 6 or 7 an hour. 6 or 7 an hour. And it goes back to the whole issue of how little regulation there is. There's no one there to monitor these facilities. You saw the doctor that's in prison now, and they expose some of these things. And, of course, the media doesn't want to cover it. They have to a little. Nobody tracks the money that comes in from the birth control companies to flood through the clinics. That's payback. There's nobody that tracks the insurance companies that gives incentives to physicians for performing abortions. Because insurance companies would rather pay for abortions than to pay for full labor and delivery. It was asked, do you get incentive payments? Oh, yeah. They flow like water. If you're a participating member of an insurance company, they will give you incentives to perform an abortion. First trimester abortions are $250. Insurance companies such as I've seen them pay over $2,000 for abortions. This is money the insurance companies are paying the abortions to do them, plus the people are paying for them to do them. Why? Because they'd rather pay $2,000 to $2,500 for a first trimester case than $7,000 to $8,000 for prenatal labor and delivery. The insurance companies are helping to pay for the abortions because it's cheaper for them. So, do you, as the owner, pocket the money? Oh, definitely. Let me ask you about your attitude or contact with women. I would make their appointments. I'd sit and talk with them in the waiting room. I would go into the procedure rooms with them. When I first got started, I was truly concerned about the women who were having abortions, but as in most cases, there's only 2 reasons why people get involved in the abortion industry. One is money. The second is because they really feel they're helping women. But even those people get involved because they think they're helping women. At some point in time, they convert to the fact it's all about money. So you stop looking at the women after a certain point as being people, and you start looking at them as dollar bills. So what happened to you? He said, definitely I found myself, probably in the last half of the time that I was involved in the abortion industry, very depressed about it, which led to a cocaine drug addiction toward the very end. I ended up hating them. Why was that? I think it was because of the depression and guilt that I felt myself. I was blaming them for it, for coming in and having an abortion, especially the women who would see time and time and time again. There was one patient who came in and had 16 abortions. Even the doctors who were doing the abortion became hateful toward the patients. They became mean and rough. What can we do? What can we do? Number one, to pray. When's the last time you had prayer on your prayer list? Pray that our country would outlaw abortion. To pray and ask God to help. Pray for pro-life judges. Pray for the Senate confirmations. Pray for the Supreme Court. Pray for the right president who can put the right people in the Supreme Court and judges in there. Pray for Christians to get involved in pro-life courses. Pray for the horrors of the abortion to become obvious to our self-centered culture. These videos that have come out are doing something to change the psyche for people that see it because they're realizing what they don't want to see. They're having to be faced with what really is going on. They're killing these babies and selling the parts. Number two, vote for pro-life candidates. Vote for pro-life candidates. Don't vote for pro-abortion candidates. You ask, are you a one-issue voter? I've always said this, I wouldn't vote for a dog catcher if he believed in murdering babies. And it's amazing to me how people can do that. I was talking to a Christian man the other day. He's a preacher, a lay preacher, preaches every week. And I was asking about elections and voting and stuff. And he said, doesn't matter. Nothing we can do about it. We're going to get the same type thing anyway. You know why we get the same type thing? Because of attitudes like that. If every Christian in the country said, we're going to vote based on the Bible, you know what? We would get amazing people who could do amazing things and turn this country back. Go back and look at the nation of Israel. When they had a godly leader, the nation was blessed. When they had a corrupt leader, the nation was cursed. I was talking to a man that used to go to our church. And we're talking about this issue. He said, well, I always vote for this group because I always make more money when this group's in charge. So they believe in murdering babies. I thought he was just joking at first. He said, no, I always make more money when this group's in charge. That's why I vote. But they're murdering babies, and they believe in that. What's more important? What's more important? What can we do? Number one, pray. Number two, vote. If you as a Christian are not registered to vote and not doing your part, you need to. And I want to be very strong and say, you know what? To be able to know that this is going on and you're not doing at least your part to be involved in this, I believe is wrong. I believe is wrong, and you need to. There is time for you to be involved and know about this process. By the way, what I'm doing today is counted as illegal by some people, because you shouldn't be talking about politics and you could lose your tax-exempt status. I'm not talking about politics. I'm talking about Bible. Now, especially, I'm telling you, before what I'm getting ready to read, I'm going to read it. Okay? I'm going to read it. I am supposedly not supposed to endorse somebody as a pastor, but as an individual person, you can ask me, and I can tell you who I'm voting for. But I'm going to read this in case you wondered, well, what group side comes down on what side? Okay? This is the Democratic platform, and it reads, we will defend the dignity of all Americans against those who would undermine it. Because we believe in the privacy and equality of women, we stand proudly for a woman's right to choose, consistent with Roe v. Wade, regardless of her ability to pay. We stand firmly against Republican efforts to undermine that right. At the same time, we strongly support family planning and adoption incentives. Abortion should be safe, legal, and rare. So, do you understand what they just said? Therefore, the right to what? Quote, choose, but it's the right to really what? Murder, regardless of their ability to pay. So if they can't pay for it, then who should? Then you. You. Okay? That's their platform. That's printed in writing what they believe and what they want to do. Okay? You ought to know that. The Bible says we'll give an account of every idle word. Every idle word. So how much are we going to give an account for voting for somebody who believes in that? Well, they say, well, I really don't believe in that. Then why are you signed up with them? If you truly don't believe in that, then don't sign up with them. Well, I agree with most of the other things. What's more important than murdering babies? I do not agree with anyone in all these groups, but look at least the platform. Okay? The platform, this is a Republican platform, says, we say the unborn child has a fundamental right to life. We support a human life amendment to the Constitution. We endorse legislation that the 14th Amendment protections apply to the unborn children. Our purpose is to have legislature and judicial protection of that right against those who perform abortions. We oppose the public revenues for abortion. We will not fund organizations that advocate it. We support the appointment of judges who respect the sanctity and innocent human life. What does that sound like? Wow. That sounds like right. That sounds like God. Sounds like what we ought to do. What should we do? We should do our part to help get people elected who are going to believe and do that. And not just a show vote to show they're against it, but someone willing to stand and fight all the way down, no matter what, for this to stop. In politics, you understand they can make a show vote. Well, I voted against it. But what did you do to defund it? Do you understand that Congress has the ability and right to defund Planned Parenthood? It's their power. Understand our system. We have judicial branch, the judges. We have the executive branch, the president and his cabinet. We have the Congress, the legislative branch. They make the laws. And they provide the funding. So they could say, we're going to make sure that this $500 million that goes to Planned Parenthood is not going to go to them and take it out of the budget. That's their prerogative. Oh, but it may shut the government down and we don't want to look bad politically. What matters? What is the most important thing? Find people who are willing to stand no matter what, even if it may be not politically. And by the way, when they do stand, support them. If we supported them when they stood, more would stand. More would stand. Quickly, write our legislators, newspapers, pro-life causes, make them accountable. Number 4, get right with God on our issues. If my people, which are called by my name, be the salt and light of this nation. We talked about that before. And number 5, support pro-life causes with our time, with our money, with everything we can do, so we could change this. Honestly, and I know more time today, but I believe this is important. Honestly, there is a move more now than in a long time to reverse these laws and things in our nation. States are taking great care in reversing some of these and making it stricter and stricter and stricter. And in the federal level, and especially with these tapes and videos that have come out, a lot of people are being aware of what's going on. There's a movement to push this back more and more and more and more. And all it would take is a right president and a couple judges and the right case to hit the Supreme Court with the science that we know now that a baby is a baby at conception, and it feels pain, and it's its own separate life, its own separate DNA. They didn't have DNA testing in 1973. They have DNA testing now to know this is an individual life. It's not part of the woman's body. It's an individual life. They could reverse that, and we can outlaw that in America. If we did what we are supposed to do. Since I've been preaching this sermon this morning, and it may have gone off, but since I've been preaching this sermon today, worldwide, 53,984 babies were murdered. I turned it on when I started preaching the sermon. In the world today, just since I started preaching, 53,000, now 995 babies were aborted in this world today. 53,000. It's more than the population of Colombia were aborted just in the time I preached this sermon in the world. We might not be able to control and stop all the world, but we could stop it in America. And then America is supposed to be a what? A leader, right? A superpower. You think we can help influence other nations to be more humane and to go against these barbaric acts? Absolutely. When the British Empire was in charge and they realized more about life, and life was not when the quickening, when they could feel it, but life was at conception, they changed their laws. What happened to every other person under the British Empire? They changed their laws also. Okay? And we could be a leader in that today in America. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? I said in the beginning, I would not enjoy preaching a sermon, and I understand none of us enjoyed this morning. But all of us need to leave and say, we need to hear that. And we need to do our part. We need to be involved. We're so involved in things about us that we forget about that precious little life. Take time to learn and to be a part so we could stop this barbarous act in our country. And let's pray. Dear Lord, thank you for you and for life. Forgive us for not doing all that we can to help our nation to be what it's supposed to be. God, it's hard to believe that you even allow our nation to live by what we've allowed to go on in it. God, help us not to stand by idly and let nothing happen. Help us be willing to stand and to do right and to do all we can to stop this. Help us to put the pressure on people that are supposed to work for us, that we're responsible for, and they're responsible to us. Help us to help them make the right decisions, and at least to defund this barbarous place that we're not paying for it, and help it to be pushed back more and more and more to eventually make Roe versus Wade not the law of the land. And Lord, help us most importantly for eternal life, to witness and to make sure everyone here is saved, and to tell the world how they can be saved also. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.